It's your hottest DJ Don Genius, spinning the wheels of steel.
Okay. Yes, so welcome on board again today, my wonderful viewers. I'm sure you are enjoying it as we started it today. Just reminding you of those olden days. I'm sure somebody is nodding his head or her head now. Let's continue to enjoy it as we learn more. So as we are starting our today's series, which is the transitioning, that is transitioning, what exactly is transitioning all about? We'll be having an overview of what it is. How did we started it? How did we get to this present stage? I'm sure whether as a DJ or if you are not a DJ, for you to appreciate what we are talking about, you first need to have a glimpse of the equipment they started with. So let's go over to it. So first of all, what is transitioning? Transitioning is moving or switching from one track to another. Just as similar as the case of video editing or video coveraging, where you have your A camera, your B camera, and a host of other, where you move from one vision to another, or from one point of view, one perspective, or whatsoever you call it. So from the mix I started, you can clearly see how I move. This is not the first track I started with, but I switched to another track stylishly with some scratches and some fine tuning, and we are here now. So let's see the equipment we started with those days, then we can get to appreciate it. So when DJ started having music production those days, music productions were done with big equipment those days. Even the DJing was done with big equipment, from what you can clearly see on your screen. This man is here. He's using this big plate, which is not as applicable as the way we do it today. Today the advancement of technology has made it possible for us to carry small equipment around, even with our phones, laptop. In short, the list is endless. If you watch my video on what it takes to be a DJ, you will see how I explain the breakdown of those equipment, where and what the role of each. If you are using Serato, if you are using Acid Pro, if you are using Virtual DJ, if you are using the normal controller, you get to see what is best for what. So this is an equipment. You have this plate here and this reader on top, just the way the normal cassette has its reader. Even the present day DJ equipment also have their own unique kind of readers where they use lens. This one is also a kind of lens, but it's majorly magnetic. So let's get to see. So in mixing, the equipment those days usually come in this form, only one controller with a mixer. So while they were playing it, they saw the need of blending two songs together or switching from one track to another, which necessitates the need to have an equipment that has equipment that has possibility of playing two songs at the same time, with a mixer in between. So that is where the complexity of the work comes. So you are playing two tracks with two different equipment, but you have to synchronize it or find a way to switch it from one track to another without stopping. So in doing that, it became necessary that they now use earphone. So they now use earphone those days, just as you can see it. This man is using the earphone today, using earphone here with this controller, and then the mixer is by the side. Then you now have the speaker. While he's doing it, you have to be listening to the song in advance. So transitioning is quite a very wide scope, in as much as I will try to give you an overview, but to brief as possible, so that maybe in my subsequent video will begin to break it down in detail and begin to see. Since song is made up of waves, these waves transport themselves through speakers, and they give you a hit that sometimes the transmission of this song from your own equipment to the speakers is not done in actual time. So that there is a timing difference as the current flows from one point to another. That is where it became necessary for you to use earpiece and then ensure that you listen to it at an appropriate time Then while you are also doing the mixing, and ensure that you start the point, you set up the hot cue at a very good starting point while you flow along with the beating from one track to another. So the switching can be done in different ways. You can have a sharp switch from one track to another. You can have the use of effect. You can have the use of concealers. You can have, in short, the list is endless. If I begin to list them, we'll go into the virtual DJ so that I'll begin to show you some of these things. So in having all these things embedded and playing around with it, you can use loops, in short. So with all those things, you have to be conscious of the fact that you are careful of what effect you are mixing together. If it is a drop, if it is a switch, if you are blending the songs, where you ensure that you have a smooth BPM of the flowing of the two tracks as they go side by side. So these things are all very important. So you have to be careful so that you don't end up attaching so many effects, and then at the end of the day the entire process is being ruined. Where you are keeping your audience entertained, then you just have a complete mess of the whole situation. So for you to do that, it means you must have a very good knowledge of the song. By mere looking at the wave, you know the intro part of the song, you know the outro part of the song, you know at what point do you drop what. You cannot have two beats, especially if you are beat matching. You cannot have two beats growing or moving together at a very high heat at the same time. So it means the beating of one track will have to substitute itself for another. That means you will bring down the bass of one so that you have a smooth blend. If not, you are going to be having conflict of beating. That means the high frequency sound. Since music is made up of different sounds being put together, and those sounds are made up of frequencies. So this frequency can be high frequency, low frequency, and just as it is. So the bass is majorly made up of heavy heat, which is the low frequency. Then the high frequency sound are made up of very light pitch. That is why the high frequency, the higher you go on the frequency, it gets to a point that you will not even hear what is coming from the speaker again. That is where you begin to talk about frequency transmitters. So equipment that transmits use that high spectrum of frequency, your DSTV transmitter, your FM, your TV, your wireless microphone, in as much as you can think of, and it goes that way. So it ensures that you transport the information in a safe and secured way, where you don't distort the normal listening ability of the human, in as much as having conflict of sounds and a host of other. And it is done through throwing magnetic wave, where you introduce a coil and a capacitor to generate the wave into the space. So with this brief intro, I'm sure you get to appreciate how this DJ equipment all started. So you can clearly see another one again. This is it. You can see these are the kind of discs that we are used those days. So you can see it. This is it, as if it's a cooker. In this case, this equipment is so unique that even without any big amplifier, if you have a very good possibility of rotating disc with this plate on it, you might even be hearing what is on the disc, because as you are scrubbing it, you'll be hearing the brush, the way it is brushing it. You'll begin to hear some sound that is being saved on the disc. So let's get to see, after having all this, let's get to see the equipment that we are now using, how we move from this type of equipment, big equipment like this, to this present day equipment, so that you get to appreciate what I'm talking about. So this is a sample of a mixer that was used those days. So since you are dealing with two different players that are playing the tracks, you need something in between that you'll be playing around with the volume. That is where the primary concept of DJing comes into play. So you want to keep the sound going, but you want to be switching from one track to another through the aid of the volume control. So what you're actually doing as a DJ most of the time is you are playing around with the volume, then introducing some extra skills to it, which can either be one track or another, or a blend of two tracks. That is where the major thing is. So let's get to see the equipment, as I have said. So this is a sample of, before we get to this stage. So these are equipment that you are very conversant with. The equipment grew to this stage where we now have the mixer, the controller, together with the mixer, all in one place with a host of some few buttons that does the magic for you. Depends on how good you are in playing around with it. And one thing with the advancement of this technology is it has also made it possible for us to build our skills as human beings, since it's we human beings that invent most of this equipment. They don't just fall from the sky. It also makes it possible for us to build that skill of playing around with this equipment to the best of our ability, as the complexity is being reduced, where you now have a flexibility of matching the beat without any stress, where the machine does the calculation of calculating the beat for you and then analyzing it and giving you a perfect way to synchronize it with through some simple touch, just as we now have it on the keyboard that we are using, just the way we have it on the keyboard now, that we can use the keyboard to do a lot of things without necessarily worrying ourselves about is the beat okay or is the beat not okay, how do I do this or how do I do this. Then it also makes it possible for you as a DJ these days now to do your mixing without any earpiece. Like if you watch most of my DJ mixes, even the one I do as I'm explaining on the video, you notice that I don't even use earpiece. I'm giving it to you real time as it is going. So, and even the amplifiers too have also improved. They are also moving at a very good sound, at a very good frequency. The flow of the current on the wires is being improved upon. So much that you don't have conflict of sounds, or except you are using wireless equipment. In as much as a DJ you try to improve, but I think for now the use of wireless connection between your laptop or any of your equipment to your speakers might not be effective for now, due to the difficulty in the frequency transmission, because you might likely have some delays as the sound move from your equipment to whatsoever the converter could be. So it might not necessarily give you the real time for you to play around with it the way you want. But if you're actually doing it just for the record purpose or for small in-house use, you can actually do it without earpiece and it will be good. You will flow around with it, enjoy the beat, and give everybody the best as you demonstrate your skill. So that is one of the interesting things about the advancement of technology. Now you can clearly see another simple equipment, see how it has been minimized. So virtually everything here, the buttons here are already here for you to control everything the way you want, without necessarily stretching your hands or your fingers and looking for which button is where. You have your slider here to adjust a pitch. So this is it. So this is the slider. So thank you for being there. I'm sure you've really learned something today, as I've just given you this brief. So when we get to the virtual DJ equipment in this case, so in order not to prolong this video, we will now have a review of some of these effects that are now available on the virtual DJ. Starting from the pre-grading, look at the list. You are going to be seeing them one after the other, so you can watch out for the next video. So let me pause this for now. I've given you a brief idea on what and how this transition of it started. So you have to be conscious of the fact that you don't mix so many effects together, you don't mix so many sounds together. You have to be conscious of the frequency, the high frequency and the low frequency in the song, the intro of the song and the outro of the song. At what point do you drop what, so that you don't drop things anyhow. At the end of the day, you are just making a complete mess of the sound. That is the key thing to take away from here. Then for those who watch my last video where I talked about the acapella are actually very good way of inspiring your audience too, where you play around with it. So the acapella is one of the simplest way to play around with a beat, with the song. It's just pure vocal, where you don't have the original beating on it. So you can use any beat to play around with it, provided you are not going off point. So that is what acapella is. So if you forget what I mean by acapella is, those who go to the bathroom and they begin to sing, that is a practical example of what acapella is all about. So don't forget to always check out the link as I have provided. The link I have been providing all this while for you to download so many things. I'll be making some of these old school tracks there available for you to download, and then a host of other. I've also improved on the keyboard mapping. So please take note, there are 2 different mappings now. Maybe subsequently very soon again I will also drop another one as I modify it. If you observe, when I start my scratching today, I didn't use the drop, so you can use the drop or I started it with scratch, just as you can see. Let's go over it for you to see again today. So you can clearly see what I just did. Just one key is doing the magic for me. That is how good technology has come so far. So it has actually made it possible now. So you don't need to worry yourself. I'll be giving you the details gradually as we go over other aspects. So this is just the intro of transitioning. So the purpose of the transitioning, especially when it comes to scratches, sometimes is you give an audience an idea of what you want them to learn, or what you want them to enjoy. So that is what most of the times those scratches are introduced. So we're looking at it more details in my subsequent video. Thank you for being there. Let's get it. Okay. Let's continue to enjoy the 70s, 80s, and the 90s.
It's your hottest DJ Don Genius, spinning the wheels of steel.